All right. Hey, everyone. Mark here, Mark P Markets. Thanks for joining me for another Bitcoin video analysis session. Let me just make some adjustments here. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay. Let me just move this over so I can see what's going on over here on TradingView, because I am simulcasting on there. Just give me a second here and I'll get this running right. Okay, cool. So guys, all right. Thanks for joining me today. Let me just refresh that. Okay. So if you're new to the stream, welcome. My name is Mark Principato, Mark P Markets. I am a chartered market technician. And in this stream, I'm going to go over three things. First, I'm going to be looking at the economic calendar. All right, maybe I'll ask you guys some questions about that. Hopefully you guys have been checking it. Number two, I'm going to go over the Bitcoin analysis of basically today's topic, which is 2 swing trade long setups that you should be watching for this week. Okay, because we have this basically this new move that has established itself. And now we have to watch this for certain types of setups to see if the move will continue. So we're going to talk about that and how to properly set up for that and how to evaluate your risk for that. And then I'm going to answer your questions. All right, so we'll have a Q&A portion for a brief period of time. The whole stream should be about an hour. So if you have questions, please put them in the chat now. So if it's about a stock or an altcoin, if it's an altcoin, just make sure you put the correct symbol so that I get the symbol right when I get to your question, okay, for the Q&A portion. So let me just say hello to everyone real quick. All right, we got Johan, good to see you. Stian, how are you? Alex from Romania. SD, how are you guys? Okay, TradingView people. If you can't see me over there, make sure to refresh the browser, and that should solve the problem. Also, again, that would be a good time to start sharing your questions in that chat as well. Okay, so let's get this thing started, shall we? Let me just pull this up here and we'll get going. So this is for educational purposes only. For investment advice, please consult a licensed investment advisor. All right, now, first things first. Have you guys been looking at the economic calendar? Let me see. Anything? Okay, so I want you guys, I like to do this exercise every once in a while. I want you guys to pull up the economic calendar, and I want you to tell me what events you think are the most important for this week. All right, and then I have a few things to tell you about that. So, and by the way, we are going to talk about the most recent trade scanner idea that came out. I'm going to talk about that as well in this. All right, I know it's counter trend. All right, so everyone's asking about Bitcoin. Everyone's asking about, okay, cool, that's cool. But anyone checking out the economic calendar? What's on the calendar for this week? Anyone want to tell me? Anyone want to tell me? Again, there's no wrong answer to this, but what the whole point of this exercise is to get you to recognize what has any relevance and what does not. Okay, it's less is more in this game. So let me see what you guys tell me there. So I want you guys to tell me what's on the economic calendar this week. All right, other thing I want to mention. If you like my stream and you like my content, please do me a favor. Press the like button, press the boost button over on TradingView, press the subscribe button, because I am working on content to put on my YouTube channel here, tutorials and things like that, useful content, so that you guys can expand your learning curve just by watching my material, because you know my material is not nonsense. All right, so yeah. So do me a favor, guys, press those buttons. Also, make sure you check the links in the description. I do have this thing called the Trade Scanner. If you're interested in that, that's a membership in my Discord community. That's what it is. These are text channels that produce trade notifications. I get a lot of questions about how this thing works because people don't fully understand it. It's raw data. It's raw trade information. And then you have to basically shape it into a trade idea. One of the greatest value propositions of this thing is it's going to teach you how to trade, because when you apply the ATR technique, which I've shown many times, you basically learning how to routinize your trade behavior. And that is very important if you want to get anywhere as a retail trader. Okay, so let's see what people are saying here about the economic calendar. All right. Hey, Levant, how are you? All right. Wouldn't there be a Fed Powell speech? Well, Stian, that was previous week. We had testimonies from Chairman Powell on Wednesday and Thursday. I don't believe he's speaking this week. All right, Stian, unemployment rate. Okay, now Unemployment rate? What is it? Can you be more specific? Is that non-farm payrolls, or is that, what is that unemployment rate? What is that? ECB President Lagarde's speech, ECB forum, okay, on central banking. Okay, now the Lagarde speech could be somewhat important. What now? Can you give me the dates and times of these things? I mean, don't just blurt them out. Tell me when. Come on, we need to be organized here. So I'm forcing you guys to go through this routine because you guys should be doing this on your own. You may not realize how important it is. Well, who cares about the economic calendar? If there's an important event and you don't understand the importance of it, and there's a range expansion, you're likely to get caught on the wrong side. It's also possible you can get caught on the right side, but it wouldn't be of your skill. I just know what I'm doing. I'm just good. No, it just happened to work out for you randomly. Okay, so SD, you're saying, all right, so you're saying that the ECB speech was today? Okay, so that's over. All right, most likely that was earlier today because, European, they're ahead on the Eastern time. Fed Powell speech on 28th of June and 29th of June. Oh, okay. He's testifying again? Is that true? Okay, so people are saying he speaks on Wednesday. All right. So I know he spoke a week ago. I believe he spoke a week ago. I don't watch his speeches, but it was on the calendar. So he's speaking again. That is important. So of all the things that you guys have shared here, right, unemployment rate you have on here, which I don't believe that's NFP. It could be, but I don't think it is. NFP specifically is non-farm payrolls, which is the most important scheduled economic event every month. It's usually the first Friday. Okay, now I don't know if we're in the first Friday of July on Friday. We might be. I haven't looked at that. I haven't looked that far out. Okay. So Chairman Powell speaks on the 28th and the 29th. So that probably is the most important piece of information. And it really it basically overpowers everything else. It's very important. He may say nothing. He may say nothing of importance or nothing relevant to the market, but the market is going to wait for him to testify or him to speak. That's very important because volume is going to get less and less. It's going to shrink as we get closer to these events. On top of this week, we're in the 4th week of June, right? First week of July is a U.S. holiday, right? 4th of July. That is an important thing to consider because volume will basically shrink and markets become very erratic. Systems that you have, especially trend following systems that, oh yeah, this works. Then suddenly you're getting signals and they're not working and you can't figure out why. It could be a function of volume. This is very important. As the environment gets slower and slower, you want to be aware of that. You want to trade less, okay? This type of environment is good for a good time to do research, to maybe test out other strategies, perhaps on paper. Maybe it's a good time to read a book. Do something else besides focus all your time on charts because it's going to be a waste of time. And we're probably going to see this type of environment go throughout July. And then August is typically, and this is a cycle that I'm describing here, August is typically the worst, right? If you're going to take time off in August as far as trades go. So use your time wisely. Don't get caught up on all kinds of garbage, wasting your time in front of charts. Use this time to research. Maybe this is a good time to develop an investing plan if you haven't done so yet. Maybe this is a good time to brush up on what the business cycle is. Things like that. Build out your educational horizon during this time because the markets are not really worth the effort right now. And that's the way it is. Okay. That's just part of the cycle. All right. Hey, who do you have over here? Lentchi? All right, from the Netherlands. How are you? Can you check? Okay, cool. I'll definitely. Thanks for putting the question. By the way, if you want to share what country or what city you're from, that's always a fun fact. I am streaming from the greater New York City area, also known as Northern New Jersey. So if I say things in a funny way sometimes, that's why. All right, that's how everyone talks in this area. Not everyone, but most people. Okay, anyway, so that's pretty much the economic calendar. My point is, don't get caught up on events also that aren't that important. Like, President Lagarde, unless you're in euro pairs, it doesn't matter that much, okay? Especially if Chairman Powell is speaking the same week. So you have to know how to weight these events. And I'm going to tell you right now. So Chairman Powell events carry a lot of weight. Non-farm payrolls carry a lot of weight. CPI reports carry a lot of weight. These events can move markets in a dramatic way. Everything else is lesser. Everything else does not carry as much weight. Okay, so please keep that in mind. It's a good lesson. Tino from Mexico. Oh, cool. Hey, Tino, how are you? Thanks for stopping by from Mexico. Mucho gusto. I can speak some Spanish. Okay. Brisbane. Oh, dear. PMX. Hello. He's a customer. PMX from Brisbane. My mate's from Australia. Man, it's got to be like 4:30 a.m. over there. You're nuts, mate. That's my Australian accent. Okay, no more accents. Let's get into the chart, right? Because people are like, when's this guy going to start talking about charts? Let's start talking about charts. All right, so let me make my chart bigger here. All right, here we go. So let's talk about Bitcoin. Now, actually, you know what? Hold on. Before I get into Bitcoin, I want to talk about Binance Coin. All right, you guys been following Binance Coin? Because this one has been on my trade scanner a number of times in recent weeks. And this thing, the trade scanner has been calling nothing but shorts on this thing. Anyone want to give me the most recent short? People who have access to my trade scanner. Anyone want to give me the most recent short call on this coin? I don't remember the exact number. I was looking at it before. I don't trade Binance Coin. I pretty much stick to like the major, like Bitcoin. If I'm going to trade anything, Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum, that type. I don't get too involved in these other altcoins. But the trade scanner, I programmed it for that purpose because other people do like to trade other coins, right? So anyone want to give me, Steen, maybe you have access? You have access. Maybe you want to put in the channel here the most recent trade in Binance Coin. And there was also Cardano, which was the most recent trade. I want to touch on that as well, but I'll touch on that after the Bitcoin analysis, okay? I just want to highlight Binance Coin first. Hey, Dom, how are you? All right, good to see you. So, Steen, you want to put that in the channel real quick? All right, there it is. Oh, can you put it in the YouTube channel? So, bearish momentum reversal, BNB 251.70 on 622. Today is 626. So that was 4 days ago, right? Let's just look at that real quick. Let's just take a look at that. Okay. Again, this was called, a trade scanner is a trade screener. In case you don't know what it is, it's a screener that uses my criteria to find trade ideas. You do have to do a little work, like I said, right? It's not set and forget. It's not something you just blindly follow, but it can give you some very interesting ideas. Let's go back to 622 here real quick, right? Here's 622 right here. And the price that it called was 251.70. Okay, so 251.70 is right. Let's go back to that price. 251.70 is over here. So it must have been, okay, actually, you know what? I have to go to the 4-hour chart. This is a daily chart. Okay, so let's just put that. I just want to show an example of that here real quick, right? Because you guys can learn from this. Look at this. This is where it called it, right around here, right? On the 22nd, 251.70. Okay, let's put that on here. Right there. That's where it called it short. Okay, here. And this is Steen. This is the actual, what Steen put there, that's the actual notification from the trade scanner channel. That's exactly what it looks like. He copied and he pasted it into the chat here. Okay. And on the chart, that's where it called the short. Now, not all trades obviously work out like this, but if you looked at this as a swing trade or even as a day trade, this was worth some money. Okay, even if you managed to hold it through this noise right here, it was worth some more money. So I'm not saying that you're going to buy it here, right, and you're going to cover it. I'm sorry, sell it there and cover it here. I'm not saying it's going to be that perfect, but just look at this move from here, right? 251.70. What's the low of this move? 239.50. Okay, so is that not worth something? That is a valuable trade. And the risk that you had to take on that was not ridiculously high if you're using the ATR method. I'm not going to go over that right now. I have other streams. You can go back and watch that. But just want to point that out, that trade scanner does provide value. It's not just some random thing. Initially it may look random and it doesn't make perfect calls. There are plenty of calls that it makes that don't work out, but I do try to provide context. By the way, I'm running a student meeting on Wednesday, speaking of context, because that allows me to go over these things in more detail and help you see the context so that you can make better judgments on these trade scanner calls, okay? Again, there's no way to know if it's going to work out or not, but the trade scanner is based on a trend following system. It's not based on just some random nonsense. It's based on something coherent, and it makes a lot of good calls. Okay, so just wanted to point that out. Thanks, Steen. And then Steen put in here, he put the Cardano one. All right, I'm not going to go over that right now. We're going to go over that in detail after the Bitcoin analysis. All right, you guys. So let's get into that. Anyway, thanks for your help, Steen. Thank you. Milad, how are you? Good to see you. I know this is counter trend, but I'm tempting to open a swing trade short on BCH for a quick 2 okay, we'll take a look at that. No problem. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for the question. All right, so first let's get into Bitcoin, right? And then I'm going to get into your questions. So the Bitcoin situation, I want to talk about 2 scenarios that you're going to look for this week if you're interested in swing trade longs. Now, if you read my article yesterday that I published on TradingView, I pretty much talked about this. There is an area. In fact, let me go back to my other chart here, my 8-cap chart. Let me just pull that back. Hold on. I'm just going to rewind this here a bit. All right. Is it letting me go back there? Hold on. Just give me a second. The 8-cap chart has all the levels on it. There it is. All right. So here's the 8-cap chart, right? It doesn't matter what chart you use. I just happen to have all my drawings and stuff on the 8-cap chart. It doesn't matter what chart. Now, you could see over previous weeks, right? I called that as a long. I pointed that out to my members. I was not able to put out an official trade on this inside bar, but I talked about it. And a lot of people got involved in this inside bar at 25K. Okay. Also, before that, I talked about this area for weeks on TradingView. I talked about it here on my streams. If anything, you should have known not to go short. Okay. If anything. Now, then we had this move, and the move seemingly came out of nowhere, right? But it doesn't matter why. Again, people want to get into like why, okay, Coinbase, blah, 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 SEC, blah, blah, blah. If you're chasing news, you are behind. You will never win if you're reacting to news. News is nothing more than an illusion of control. If you're a retail trader, everyone that matters has the news before you. So forget the news game. I never pay attention to news. I have no idea what's ever going on in the news. I usually find out days after, okay? But I'm still able to make trade calls. Why? How do I do that? I'm focusing on levels, I'm focusing on price structure, and I'm focusing on price action. That's it. You want to know why that works? Because all the known information in the world is baked into price right now. That's part of efficient markets. That's part of what's called random walk, okay? And because everything is at fair value right now and all information is baked in right now, I pretty much can trust how price unfolds because it's nothing more than a reflection of people's behavior, okay? The herd. And that's all I'm looking for. So because of that, I can assign probabilities, right? For example, I've identified this as a support, 25K. I wrote about it for a long time. And while it may not be, you can't just jump in front of that. The thing is, it wasn't a place to go short, clearly, right? So anyway, the point is, what do we do now? And how do we read this now? So forget the news. Forget all that nonsense. Stop getting fooled by that. You're only fooling yourselves. What do we do with this now? Well, basically, we're talking about pullbacks, okay? And I want to point out 2. The first one is this area right here, okay? This is basically the 28K, mid 28Ks, 29, high 29s, right? This area right here. This area that I'm pointing out right now, this rectangle, this blue rectangle that I'm drawing right here, that is a high probability area for a long. Now, there's no way to know if the market will actually get into this area. If the market can, then it's offering us an opportunity to keep an eye on. So that's your first swing trade setup area. Now, of course, it needs to confirm. You can't just step in front of it. Now, why this area? Is that just randomly selected? I just thought it was cool. Am I using some kind of fib measurement there? There actually is a fib measurement there, but that's only secondary. What I'm looking at here is this price action back here, which many of you will not even notice. But that price action back there, okay, which dates back to April, March, April, right back there, that's significant. You know why? That's evidence of people who are short. That's what that is. There's all the, look at all those wicks, right? All those tails on those candles. And while price has jumbled through there more and more recent time, right, back and forth, as you can see, the level is relevant. Look at this touch over here. Okay, so if the level is relevant, that means there's most likely order flow caught in that area. Okay, so because there's people caught in that area, when price revisits the area, it's likely to behave in a more forecastable way. Now you may say, well, how about over here? Blew right through it, right? Shouldn't have it been a resistance of some kind? Well, theoretically, it should have been, but the question is how does the level, what kind of behavior do we get at the level when the level is revisited? That's the question you have to answer. That's not a question that we can forecast into the future. That's a question that the market has to answer in the present. It blew right through. Okay, so obviously it's not a resistance because you got a very strong green candle close way above the level. There's no candlestick, there's no tail on that one. I mean, there is a tail, but it closed pretty strong. All right. If this tail was huge and we had basically a gigantic pin bar, that would be something else. Okay. Sort of like what we had over here, right? Bearish pin bar, but we don't have a bearish pin bar here. That's a close with conviction. In fact, I wrote a note to my members and I said, if we close with conviction above the 28K area, 30K is much more likely. Well, we went to like 31.7. All right. So that, again, my point is this area is a high probability area for a swing trade long. Okay. But we need confirmation. First, price needs to get there. Second, we need confirmation. Once we have those two things in place, we can measure our risk. You can use the ATR for that if you'd like. And then you have your swing trade idea, long. This is not a short on the swing trade time frame. As a day trade, that's another story, but we're not talking about day trades. We're talking about swing trades specifically. So that's a long. Right now, swing trade shorts for Bitcoin are counter trend. And while some people are going to be tempted to go, oh, resistance, I'm going to go short, you're asking for trouble. Now, you can get away with it, but you're asking for trouble. Probability is stacked against you if you're shorting this thing. As a day trade, it's another story. You're only looking for a small bite. There's plenty of small bites to be made in this type of movement, okay? But if you're looking for a big bite, that's not the way to go. The big bite right now is on the long side. That's where the probability is in your favor. So scenario one, market pulls back into that 28, 28 half, 29, 29 half area and gives us a long signal. Hopefully I can call it this time if I see it. Now, that's the first scenario. The second scenario is a little more tricky. You guys following me so far? So the second scenario is the tight pullback. And the tight pullback can occur like where it is now. This is the tight pullback area. Now, the tight pullback has less to do with historical structure, which is what I'm pointing out here. This is historical structure. All right. That is much less to do with it. And it has more to do with continuation of momentum, which is a very short-term oriented thing. So if we get the tight pullback, this is where the trade scanner shines. The trade scanner right now is in position. It's looking for longs. Thanks to this move, it has transitioned from short to long. So it's looking for longs. And the next call that it makes is most likely a long, and that long is most likely to develop somewhere in this area. So for example, if we go to a 4-hour chart, okay, I'm going to take you to a 4-hour chart over here. If we go to a 4-hour chart and the next candle on this chart, let's say the next candle looks like this, you're going to see a long signal on the trade scanner. You're going to see a long notification pop out on the trade scanner if you see something like that, because the trade scanner, again, is looking at the short-term momentum and it's looking for changes in that. So please keep that in mind. If you're looking for those type of trades, they're a little more aggressive because why? This is not an ideal level, all right? It's not an ideal level. It's a minor level. The trade scanner doesn't really care as much about levels. It cares more about changes in momentum. And if the trend is generally bullish and it sees a momentum change, it's going to call it. Now, this system is not perfect. Sometimes it gets caught in noise, but if it calls along in this area, okay, somewhere in this area, that is not unreasonable. That's not like ridiculous. Okay, that's within reason. Just keep in mind, how do you play that? That's what I want to answer. Well, you use smaller expectations. Okay, if you're working with the 4-hour chart and you get the buy signal on the 4-hour chart, your stop should not be 2,000 points lower. Your stop is probably going to be more like 1,000 points lower or something along those lines. I don't know what the ATR is. I don't have the ATR on here right now, but you can use the ATR to calculate that in advance, right? Your take profit will probably be up here somewhere, a potential higher high. Don't know if the market will make it there, but theoretically, the structure supports such a move. And if momentum aligns, okay, the higher high, this is the daily chart now, the higher high would be up in this area right here, which is part of the 31K resistance. Keep in mind, if that resistance is cleared, which is also a possibility since the general trend is bullish, the broader trend is bullish, and the short-term trend is now bullish. If we do get that higher high, 33 is the next resistance on this thing, okay? So it's possible to get there. So if you're going to play that game, and you want to know what side to lean on or what probability is more favorable, it's that side. Now, another thing I just want to mention for this second scenario here is if you get that long signal, right? The trade scanner calls it, and you get that long signal and it starts to go and you reach 1-to-1 reward risk, that would be a good time to take something off the table. So if you have like a futures contract, for example, and you have 2 contracts, you sell one. If you have the coin outright, okay, let's say you bought a half a coin with margin or you bought a quarter of a coin, you can sell a portion of that, maybe 30% of it, maybe a quarter of that. You get the point. Take something off the table at 1-to-1 because you're moving up into this resistance area. And then you let the other portion ride until a few things. You can let it ride until you get a conflicting signal. You can let it ride until it reaches a more attractive reward risk, like 2-to-1, 3-to-1. You can be more aggressive with it. Why? You locked in half your profit. So you're in a green position and now it's more flexible. That is how you capture larger moves in the market. Now, one point that I made in my article, I don't know how many people read the article. A lot of people don't like to read my article, I guess, because they're too long. I don't know. But one point that I want to make here is this. See this structure back here? I was able to count in that 9 long signals going back to March. 9 long signals. You want me to point them out here? I'll point them out. It was something like 9, may have been less. Look, here's 1, right, which worked out really well. Okay. Let's see. This is a long signal in here. That's 2. That wasn't very good. This one you can argue is a long signal in here, right? That's 3. This is a long signal here. That's 4. Notice those are not very good long signals. This is another one right over here, 5. Okay. This is we can argue this is a long signal, 6. All right. Another one over here, 7. This is one. Is this one? Yeah, this is an inside bar. Yeah, that was one right there, 8. Okay. We have this one over here, 9. We have this one over here, 10. Okay. Actually, I haven't even gotten back to March yet. Look, going further, here's another one. Okay. Here's another one. Those are all long signals based on the setups that I look for. Now you realize if you average the profits, like these are losing trades over here. Okay. There's a few losing trades in there. If you average the profit from some of these winning trades, like this was a winning trade, right? You can have argued that this is a small winner over here. This was a winning trade. There was some green. When I say winning, I mean there was some green potentially in the trade. There's some green over here, right? There was some green over here. If you average those, you're looking at generally about 1,000 points, something like that. Okay, not exactly, but something like that. My point is this: if you go into every trade thinking that you're going to get one of these, right, you set yourself up for a lot of trouble, because these, as you can see, out of 10 setups, only 1, or 12 setups, only 1 produced the big home run profit that everyone likes to dream about and brag about and all that other stuff, right? Everyone wants to be part of. Look at the average profits, not the home runs. So if you instead were looking at, okay, I'm only going to look for about 1,000 points, or I'm going to lock something in when I reach 1-to-1, now you're able to take profits and participate more effectively in all these previous movements. That's what's called being flexible and having an open mind. Okay, and not sitting there getting stuck on, oh, when is this move going to happen? Because since March, we have not seen a move like that. Does that make sense? So you have to look at average profits, not home runs. Again, that was a key point that I was trying to make yesterday in my article. All right, you guys. So you guys following me so far? Any questions? Let me see what we got here. Have you ever using the yeah, actually, John Smith, that's a good question. TD sequential. I'm very familiar with it. I've experimented with it, and I just cannot find anything better than random. Like occasionally it'll give you like a great trade, but then like you have so many bad trades that come along with it that I have not been able to effectively filter that out and use it in any kind of effective way. Maybe it's because the whole world is aware of it these days. That technique came out many years ago, and it's very interesting, but I just can't see how it's better than random, and I have spent some time with it. Do you have ATR set? I use it lower left. Well, yeah. So look, the ATR, you guys have seen it before. This is my ATR on Bitcoin, right? So I don't, I just take it off the chart so we can see the chart bigger. But when I'm looking to put trade ideas together, right, and I want a very quick way to arrive at take profits and stop loss orders, I have a technique, which I even have a webinar about it, right? I've gone through all that stuff with you guys. I go over it, my student meetings. I've gone over it numerous times. All right, simply you just multiply on a smaller time frame, right? Like a 4 hour, you multiply it by 2, and that is your take profit. I'm sorry, that's your stop loss. You multiply it by 3, that is your take profit. And that gives you an instant place to put your orders, your initial order placement. And then you can adjust from there. The ratio should be 1.5 to 1. Okay, that's the one I like to use because I want a higher probability of getting out of some of it green. You don't have to take your full position at 1.5 to 1. You don't have to take all of the profit, but you should be taking something off. Okay, it's going to depend on the situation. All right, only price talks. That's right. Okay, let me go back. Okay, all right. I see. Okay, that was that. All right, let me go here in TradingView. I see some questions over here. All right, so I see some questions about the indices. We'll take a look. All right. Okay. So any other questions, you guys? Let me know if you have any questions about this Bitcoin analysis, because I want you guys to be prepared in case if this market shows us the look. Now, keep in mind, many altcoins are not following along with this thing. Okay, some are, but many of them. I mean, I saw like 3 or 4 or 5 short signals on the trade scanner while Bitcoin is now bullish. So what do you do in that situation? I mean, I just showed you Binance Coin. So, you have to be careful when the leader is bullish and the alts, the followers, are still bearish. It does not mean that they're going to play catch up at some point. There may be relative weakness. And if this Bitcoin move is brief and it pulls back to lower levels, those altcoins are in position to get hammered. Right? So please keep that in mind. You have to look at that both sides of the equation all the time, especially when it comes to comparing relative strength. Okay, so let me go back now, and I can start answering some questions. And guys, stick around because I am going to go over that Cardano trade, right? That recent Cardano trade that Stian shared in the channel here. It seems that we have a sell signal on Bitcoin. Alex says, okay, so Alex, let's talk about that, right? Because that's relevant to what we're talking about here. Yes, that we can argue that this is a sell signal. We have a bearish inside bar right here, and that inside bar is in play. But like I just said, sell signals are a bad idea. You have a sell signal at a resistance level. So that's good if you were long. You can use that as a reason to justify locking in profit. That's a conflicting signal. That's, when you wait for something like that, that's how you manage to get long here. And if you wait for a conflicting signal, right, eventually you get one. And now if you wait for one, you manage to hold on to a larger portion of the move. Okay, that's what happens when you wait for conflicting signals. But to go short as a swing trade, it's a bad idea. As a day trade, if you're going to take 100 points out, 200 points, whatever, that's within reason on Bitcoin for day trades. Okay, fine, cool, no problem. But don't expect much from this because, like I said before, with scenario number 2, this thing can easily find support in this area right here, and the next leg can look like this. And you don't want to get caught in that on the short side. There's no reason for it. Everything is pointing to long. The short-term trend is bullish, and the long-term trend has always been bullish. All right, it's never changed to bearish since it held 25K. So anyway, so that answers your question there. Good question. All right, let me see what else we got here. Okay, Matic. SD wants to see Matic. All right, so we're going to start getting into these now. Matic USD. So Matic is, again, one of these altcoins that I was just describing. Does this trend look bullish to you? No. So this is relatively weak, number one. Even if Bitcoin, Bitcoin's going to have some amazing rally. But keep in mind, it's not just Bitcoin that's affecting these things. Keep in mind that you're still dealing with the business cycle. You're still dealing with interest rates and cheap money. There is no cheap money right now. And as long as we don't have cheap money, I don't believe these things have much potential. So this trend is clearly bearish. I could draw bearish trend lines all over the place on this thing. And you have another lower high in this area right here. Okay, resistance was touched. Look at this resistance right here. All right, resistance was touched. Bearish pin bar a few days earlier, right, earlier in the previous week. This is not a place for longs, if anything. Even though Bitcoin is showing some promise, if Bitcoin makes that higher high and these things are struggling, you want to stay away from these things because that means they're relatively weak. So what do you do with this right now? Well, there's nothing to do here. Okay, you're coming off this resistance. You have this inside bar situation, which never turned into a long signal. And you have this red candle today. All right. So if you want to get involved in this thing, at least, if anything, give it a chance to give you a double bottom. Or you can argue it's a triple bottom at that point. If you get another bottoming formation right here, look at these other previous two bottoms, right? That was your double bottom. There was a little movement in there, right? Some positive outcome there if you took that long. Of course, we can say that after the fact. But if we retest that level again and the level holds, that would be your swing trade opportunity. It's counter trend, by the way, and it's aggressive. You're better off buying something that's strong than chasing something that's reflecting, weakness. All right. This chances are, based on this structure, chances are this thing's going to break that support and go lower. So, keep that in mind. This is not a place to be buying Matic. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised. I think my trade scanner called Matic short too. It's been calling a bunch of them. I saw it called DOT. It called, Cardano. It called a bunch of these things short. And I'm like, calling a lot of shorts while Bitcoin is a long. So please keep that in mind. Steen says, can we take a look at Ethereum? Sure, let's take a look. In fact, I have a special, I like to look up my special Ethereum chart here. Let's see if I can pull that up over here. Ethereum, where is it? I'll pull it up right now. Is it this one? I have like a little line on it. Is it this one? No, that's XRP here. I think it's this one. All right, let's take a look. Yeah, it is this one. So Ethereum and Litecoin had a very similar reaction, right? This is just, all this is a reflection of the Bitcoin move. That's all it is. Ethereum right now, look at this, resistance. Anyone that bought this as a swing trade and bought it here is foolish. I'm sorry. I hope you were not one of those people that bought it, Steen. But you have here a bearish pin bar, kind of like we just saw in that Matic situation. Look, bearish pin bars off of resistance. Not what you want to see if you're going long. So if anything, this thing is showing weakness and it's a possible short, if anything. All right. But the conflict is Bitcoin. If Bitcoin pulls back to like 28K or 26K or something like that, then you'll probably see more of a pronounced move on these things that may take you back into this area here. So your next support on something like Ethereum is this level, actually, which is what, 1761. So if you're going to be thinking long, that's where you should be thinking long and waiting for confirmations. Otherwise, I wouldn't be thinking long here. If anything, if you want to take an aggressive short, this is the place to do it because you have the resistance. This thing is not exactly, I mean, it's sort of following Bitcoin. So you have to consider that counter trend. All right. Because of that Bitcoin relationship. So please keep that in mind. I hope that helps. All right. Let me jump over here to TradingView. All right. So we have Lent, he asked me this a long time ago. Let's answer these questions, Lent. By the way, on TradingView, do me a favor, press that like button, press that boost button. Make sure you check the links in my signature. Okay. Let's take a look. So we'll start with NASDAQ 100. I can't look at all of them because I have other people asking questions here, but you do bring up some important ones. We need to look at them. So let's take a look at NASDAQ 100, right? NASDAQ 100 has been, as you know, ridiculous. Now, there are reasons for this. And like someone had put in my chat earlier in the active investor chat, a question about Bitcoin being in a secular rally or secular bull market. And while I've said that can be true, right? You can't get married to the opinions as to why. It doesn't matter why. This move on the NASDAQ, it was relentless. It was outright ridiculous. There was a reason behind it. It had to do with the Treasury, the U.S. Treasury intervention, right? The market wasn't expecting that. And we got this ridiculous move. And everyone, oh, the stock market's strong. Oh, I'm going to buy Apple now. Right. Well, as soon as the Treasury stops, we have this situation. So now this thing is starting to break supports. Where are we at right now? 14.7. We haven't been this low in weeks. In fact, if we look at the weekly chart on this thing, look at the ridiculousness of this move, right? This is about, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 weeks. 8 weeks straight of just rally. 8 weeks of higher highs. It really sucks in a lot of people, okay? Mindless people who are incapable of thinking for themselves and not recognizing the risk. Look where the market went to. Do you think this is a coincidence? Do you think that that is a coincidental level? It's not, right? It went to a resistance. It turned. This is a weekly sell signal, by the way. There's a, to what, today is Monday, and we took out the previous week's low. Is that right? That's a sell signal. That's an inside bar sell signal on the NASDAQ. So if you're long stocks, you know, you're going to have a hard time with this. I warned people that this NASDAQ move was nothing more than a few big names, you know, like NVIDIA and Facebook and all the other nonsense stocks that people buy because I use Facebook, so I'm going to buy the stock. You know, that kind of nonsense, right? Or that AI revolution nonsense. All it is hype. It's not relevant. It's not going to stick. As soon as the perception changes, the stocks that carry this thing, when they're not carrying this thing anymore, then reality sets in. The reality during this entire time was most stocks were not rallying. A lot of stocks were being sold, and it was even reflected in my trade scanner. I have a stock one, and it was just printing walls of shorts. It would have like 25 stock ideas, all short, all bearish. This is while the NASDAQ was pushing these highs. Okay, so that's a sign when you see something like that, and a very valuable piece of information. It was a warning: don't be buying stocks at these levels. Don't be buying stocks at highs. It doesn't matter if, oh, but it's going higher. Oh, but it's going higher. Don't be buying stocks at highs. This thing refused to pull back. We're now nearing our first significant support on this thing in weeks. Okay, so 14.7, 14.6. If it can hold that, then maybe there's a swing trade idea there. If it can produce a bullish signal, keep that in mind. A week earlier, I sent out I do like these weekly updates I'm trying to do now throughout the week, maybe once or twice a week. And I talked about some of the price action in here, and I gave some scenarios. And I said, well, if it closes this way and it takes out this level tomorrow, it could be a buy signal, right? And it tried, but then it failed. So this isn't bullish right now, okay? Yes, we're going into support levels. We have to see how price behaves there. So keep that in mind in light of the stocks that you trade, particularly if they're part of the NASDAQ. Now, so that was the NASDAQ 100. On that note, real quick, I just want to point out, I'm not going to go over the DAX right now. If I have time before we wrap this up, I will. But I want to show you the bond market, okay? Because you guys should check this every week. And this is the ZN1, right? This is the 10-year note. And I keep pointing this out with the 10-year note. Look at this price action in here. Look at this. So one day it's green, then it's red, then it's green, then it's red. You know, oh, it's strong. Oh, it's weak. Oh, it's strong. This price action here is completely irrelevant. Let's go to the weekly chart, okay? This is what it looks like on the weekly chart. So this is what I want to point out, because the bonds are going to determine how this game plays out, right? If the bonds push here and they break this support, that means rates are rising with conviction. That will be a very bearish story for the market if rates do that. But rates are not. This is a reflection of interest rates. Okay, I can pull up the yield chart, but we don't need to. We can look at the bond price chart. So rates are frozen in here. right? The market is used to these levels. The market has become accustomed to these levels. So the market gets, frisky. On top of that, you have the Treasury dumped all their money into the market and they froze the bond market pretty much, right? This, I think, was part of their way of creating stability and preventing all those bank runs that we were seeing a few months ago. And give those chance for those banks to breathe a bit, because they're all still stuck in these bond positions, right? Please keep that in mind. That you can argue that's a fundamental opinion, but all that aside, just keep an eye on this bond chart, right? That's my point here. If the bonds make it back up to here and they break this resistance and we get a nice rally going, that's lower rates. And that will be a positive for all of your highly speculative assets, your Russell 2000 stocks, your altcoins, your tech stocks, all that nonsense. That I would think would bring on a more broader rally, because we have cheap money at that point, or cheaper money than the market has been accustomed to in some time. Does that make sense to you guys? So please keep that in mind. This game begins with the bond market, okay? And don't get caught up in all the little nonsense. Look at those major levels like I pointed. So a red bond day doesn't mean anything. A green bond day doesn't mean anything. It's those broader levels. All right. I taught you a lot there. Let's move along. Okay, so I'm going back to YouTube over here. I just want to see what other questions you guys got. All right. Just going back to the chat. Just give me a moment. Let's see. BT. Okay. Hi, Dennis. Bearish pullback until 28.5. Well, yeah, pretty much I explained that. Yeah, you got that. Then bullish break 31K resistance. Yes, you got that. And now that's not a forecast with a high degree of accuracy. That's just one scenario. Okay, that's one scenario that may unfold. It may not. Our job as a trader is to see if the market can offer that opportunity, and if it does, then we determine our risk from that opportunity. And then if we take a trade, then it's up to the market to deliver or not. And it's also up to us to have an open mind, to be prepared in case the market decides to change its mind, right? That's called flexibility. Very important. That's the key aspect. That if there's any skill in this, because mostly there's not, but if there's any skill, it's really having that open, flexible mind and being able to process information that you don't want to see without any bias. All right. Okay. Nikos, how are you? I had EOS USD, NEO, and okay. Doesn't look bullish, but they are in support zones. Would like their opinion. Okay, I can't look at all of them, Nico, so I'm only doing one. But let's take a look at NEO USD. I haven't looked at that one in a while. NEO USD. They're all pretty much probably going to be in the same boat. So here's NEO USD on Bitfinex. And you said here that they are in support zones. They are? That's not a support zone. I don't know what time frame you're looking at. Let me redraw that here. This Nikos is not a support zone. That's a resistance zone. It was a support zone at one time, but it's now a resistance. It's an old support, new resistance. So this is not a place to be buying. Just like, and again, this looks very similar to Matic and all that other stuff. Anyone that bought recently is now likely to get caught. If this stays like this and it does not rally from here, because again, it may rally. You may get a tight support like I described in Bitcoin. You may get that, a little tight support area right here. You may get, followed by a bullish signal, right? That's a possibility over the coming week. That's a possibility. But if you don't get that, right? Because again, there's no way to know if we get that. Right now, based on this, the probability favors a test of low. Okay, this is what the probability favors, not higher highs. Why do I say that? Well, this is a lower high. This is a lower high. This here is a lower high. There's nothing bullish about that. Okay, lower highs often lead to lower lows. So that's how I would treat something like that. I hope that gives you some perspective. That's how you estimate your probabilities. There's no reason to be long this thing right now. And I'm going to guess that if your other coins look like this, then everything else will applies. And this is while Bitcoin is pushing. Bitcoin is strong, and these things are like not doing anything impressive at all. They are relatively weak. All right. Dollar looks like it's trying to develop a higher low. Okay, dollar index. That's important. Dollar index is also going to sort of be a reflection of the bond market because of interest rates. Now, you're saying high or low. Okay, yeah, I see that, right? You have a double bottom over here. That's a double bottom, high or low, relative to this move right here. So there is some strength developing in the dollar, in the US dollar. At least it's trying to. But when it comes to the dollar is very slow to show us progress, just like the bonds. Again, this is a reflection of interest rates. That's why it's so important for you to be familiar with the bond market and interest rates, because they're going to have an effect on this chart in particular. This is the weekly chart. There's a resistance here. All right, we're fooling around here in the middle, but this doesn't really mean anything. It could be a higher low, but this is not a bullish trend exactly. This part of it is not. Now you can say, but yes, it is a bullish trend. Go back to here, right? Is this a bullish trend? It is. So you can say that the bigger picture bullish trend, as you know, you're in my training program, you can split the trend into categories. So the broadest trend is bullish. The middle trend, right? The midterm trend, we can argue is bearish, right? Sort of, because we have a lower high situation, right? It's a corrective structure. And the short-term trend, we can argue, is possibly bullish, or maybe you want to argue it's range-bound. You can argue that it's in a range, but that in the context of the larger trend, it's a higher low. Okay, so if this thing maintains that low and starts producing buy signals, that's a weekly chart, then the dollar may be in a position to rally. If the dollar is in a position to rally, what does that say about bond rates? What does that say about interest rates? It means rates are likely to rise if the dollar, but usually the dollar doesn't lead the rates lead the dollar. So, but this is a reflection of stronger rates, right? Because dollar likes stronger interest rates. And stronger interest rates are not good for anything else. Okay, that means money becomes more expensive. Does that make sense? So thanks for bringing up the dollar index. My first short is a small bite. I closed it for a small profit because I don't like how it plays. Okay, well, so again, hold on, I just closed my charts. Okay. Why is this thing acting like that? Hold on, you guys. Let me pull that back up. Okay. So when it comes to like degree of certainty, and you're not sure of something, you're like, I don't know about this, then that's where day trades shine, because you're only looking for a small bite. You're playing the probabilities on a smaller time frame. And as long as you respect those probabilities, and as long as you respect the risk on that smaller time frame, then you're not exposed to the larger risk, right? The larger time frame. That's where again, being a day trader, that's one of the advantages. Okay. There aren't too many advantages to being a day trader, but that's one of them. All right. Thanks, Alex. Let me see what else I have here on TradingView. I see some action going on over here. What do I have going on over here? What about Ocean, sir? Do you have any thoughts? And can you take a look at NVIDIA? Alex is tricky. You're asking me questions on two channels. Maybe you're anticipating that I won't read your name, but I see your name. So yeah, you asked. I have to try to answer some other questions here. But if I can get to your question, I'll try to answer it. All right, so hold on. We have a few minutes. What I want to do here is I asked Stian before to share with me the trade idea that was shared by my screener for Cardano. This is the most recent trade idea that my scanner has shared. Let's pull this stupid coin up. I've never been a big fan of Cardano, right? Too much hype. But does this not look like the other coins like Matic and Neo? Does it not look similar? Binance coin, it kind of looks similar to them, does it not? So it called a short. Let's just take a look at this. Does this have any value? This was called yesterday. All right. I guess around noon, I guess that timestamp looks like. And 29.72. Let's just put that on the chart here. Let's just see where that is. 29.72. That's up here. That's 29.72 on a 4-hour chart. Wow. What do we have there? So this is why I want to pull this up. Whether you take this trade or not, the trade scanner called this yesterday. I would never have called something like this. I don't have the time to sit there and call these type of trades. That's why I built this thing, to highlight opportunities that otherwise we would miss. I don't trade Cardano anyway, but look at this trade. If I saw that, a pin bar, and I get the trade notification, right? It's a 4-hour, basically, after that candle closes, it's a 4-hour candle. That's a short, clearly, right? And you can take that as a day trade. Look, it's a double top, triple top situation, right? Pin bar. You can't get any clearer than that. Okay, that's a beautiful short. 29.72. The low of this candle is 29.60, right? So even if you got it at a worse price, 29.50, this right now is at 28.15, and it was lower, right? The low of this candle was 27.66. So my point is this: you can use, even though the trade scanner was meant to be used for swing trades, like you can't take this now. The trade is over, right? You're not going to take this now. You should be getting out of the trade, if anything. If you're in a trade like this, you don't have to take it as a swing trade. You can take this as a day trade. And so how are you going to determine, the day trade? How are you going to separate the day trade from the swing trade? With the average true range. I'm not going to do all the calculations now, but if I have the average true range, right, on this chart, I mean, this is one of these, like, it's going to be one of these weird numbers, 0064, right? So if you do the formula like I've pointed out, basically it's going to give you a proportional risk and a proportional take profit with a 1.5 to 1 reward risk ratio. And you don't have to do any thinking or guessing. You're just following that market-centric piece of information, and it's going to allow you to place your orders in places that make sense. Okay. I mean, this thing, I don't know where the stop would have gone, but if you shorted it here, I'm willing to bet the stop was going to be up here somewhere. It never even came close. Okay. It was never even a thing. So please keep that in mind. Not all trades work out like this, but I do want people to recognize the value and be able to make money with this, right? That's why I have student meetings. By the way, all free people that are in my Discord community, there's a link in my free channel. Not a link. There's just a message in there. If you message me, I'm going to send out invites to free people for my student meeting on Wednesday at 3:30 p.m. Eastern time. If you want to be part of that, that's usually only open to students. Okay, so I'm opening up to free members, just like sort of like an open house type of situation. And you can ask questions and you can see some of the stuff we go over. It's very eye-opening. You guys should join it. It's free. All right, you have to send me a private message and I'll send you the invite link. I have the invite link. I'm going to send it out tonight. Okay, now let me go. So that was Cardano. You guys clear on that? And again, if you have questions, there's a link in the description if you want to learn more about how to access a trade scanner, or just send me a private message. I'm happy to answer questions. But great trades on that thing, man. Great trades. All right. So BCH, Malad, I'm sorry. Your question has been there the entire time. I don't know if Malad's still watching, but let's take a look at Malad. Let's take a look at BCH real quick. Now you're shorting this thing? Okay. What is going on here? Well, keep in mind, this is Bitcoin. Okay. Even though it's not exactly Bitcoin, it's going to pretty much follow Bitcoin. Now you said here in this, I am tempting to open a swing trade short for a quick 2 to 3 day profit. Okay. No way. I understand why. All right, let's go. This is a daily chart, by the way. Okay. This is a daily chart. This is wild. How much is this thing at? 222. So let's go to a weekly chart. Obviously this is news or something, and you're tempted to go short. It cleaned right through this resistance like it wasn't even there. Okay. This is why you don't step in front of things. Your next resistance, Malad, in fact, it's a zone. I'm going to give it to you. This is your next resistance right here. Right? This area right here. This is your next resistance. You're in the resistance zone. So you have that going for you. But stepping in front of this is a bad idea. Let's go back to the daily chart, because you need a confirmation, if anything. And yes, it is counter trend. So you are dealing with a lower probability situation. If you want to try to hold it for 2 or 3 days, okay, but it's probably more appropriate for a day trade if you're going to take this thing on the short side. There's no sell signal in here. So you have the location, you have a bearish inside bar, but the inside bar low was never taken out, right? So there was never a sell signal. And now look at this candle. So everyone that got short now is getting caught in this thing. So you want to at least wait for another inside bar or a bearish pin bar in this area, right? Something like that. If you want to give that a try, and I would recommend day trade, not swing trade, because if there's some kind of news in this thing and that this thing gets ridiculous, you can get caught, and you don't want to get caught in that. Okay. No idea what's going on with BCH, but I'm staying away for now. Yeah, well, there could be opportunity here, right? And you can also consider the long side. Something like this, when you see a ridiculous move like this, go to your smaller time frames. Go to an hourly chart, okay? If you want to day trade, this is great for day trades because there's a lot of action in it, right? It's getting a lot of people's attention, and you can find day trade opportunities in here. But if you're not familiar with, like, if you don't have a system, or then don't do it, okay? You need a very solid set of rules and, all the specifics that I go through, especially my training program. You need a way to be able to evaluate the market so that you don't get caught in a bias. You want to work with market-centric information. So if you don't have a routine way to evaluate day trades, then don't. But that's what I would suggest on something like that. Thanks for bringing that one up. It is ridiculous, and obviously there's some news driving that. All right. Ocean, can you take a look at NVIDIA? Litecoin. All right, so let me do, well, look, Litecoin is something that, I'll do Litecoin. I got to wrap this up here in a moment. Let me see, where are we doing? Yeah, okay. So Litecoin, LTC, USD. Again, people, if you have questions, you can find me in the Discord community. You can send me a private message. You can send me an email, right? Here, I mean, you got my email. Yeah, let me just show you real quick, right? If you look at my name here on this thing, let me just take this, let me take this Cardano thing off, right? Look, my name is Mark at Mark P Markets. You can send me an email there, and I'm happy to answer, questions that you may have. All right. So this right here is Litecoin. I mean, look, Litecoin is nothing more than a reflection of Bitcoin. Everything that I said about Bitcoin, pretty much you're going to see in Litecoin. In fact, my trade scanner was short Litecoin over here. And I warned people. I said, if you're in this thing short, get out, because it should not be behaving like this, especially with Bitcoin. And this thing got squeezed, right? So now here, you're up in these resistance areas right here, right? You have all this resistance on Litecoin in this area. Look at this. There's a lot of resistance there, and it's reacting to it. Okay, so everything that I said about the two setups with Bitcoin is what you want to apply here. You want to see if you can get the tight pullback, or you want to see if you can get a little more of a steeper pullback, like something like this, which would be around, what is that? $80, 80 and a half, maybe high 70s, something like that. That would be more ideal. But you can use Bitcoin for your guide on something like that. You don't have to just look at the Litecoin chart. If Bitcoin gives the signal, Litecoin is likely to follow. All right, so please keep that in mind. All right, you guys. So let me see. All right, so let me just say this. If I missed your question, I apologize. I'm here every Monday, okay, at the same time. You guys can find me here. Again, like I said, you can find me in those other places. Make sure you click on the links in the description. Also, if you like my content, please press the like button. Please press the boost button. Please subscribe to the channel for more content as I produce it. All right. So everyone, again, join me next week if I missed your question, and I apologize. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day, the rest of your evening, wherever you are in the world, and thank you for watching.